Hey folks, so today I wanted to show you one of the functions of the Desmos calculator that I find most useful, which is that you can not only graph lines but name those lines and then use subsequent lines of input to talk about a point on that line or the derivative of that line, of all kinds of kind of fun stuff. So here is, for example, so you could enter just x squared plus 1, which is kind of cool. My students really like, especially my lower level students, they really like that you can just enter the right side of the equation. I tend to kind of have to push them to recognize that a line is actually, or an equation is a relationship between two values, the y and the x, so that x squared plus 1 doesn't really meet our standards for rigorous notation, even though Desmos doesn't mind it. But once we get into function notation, then we can rename that as f of x equals x squared plus 1. And initially, when students first meet function notation, they kind of think it's just excessively tedious. But the ability to say, like, oh, well, what is f of 3? And then say, oh, Desmos does a nice job of kind of showing, like, hey, look, f of 3 is 10. We know what function we plugged what into. That's kind of the beauty of that. It also can plot that point, so 3 comma f of 3. Oops. Plot that point and even show us. Sure enough, there it is, 3 comma f of 3. Desmos also does a really nice job using sliders in this regard. So I can say a, f of a. Desmos is really sick here because you don't have to even click add the slider. It just kind of tells you what it's going to do. So if you hit enter, sure enough, there it creates that slider. And I can move, hey, look at that, those are all my points. You can change what your slider does, how big it goes, what's the step. If all of those little decimals are kind of messing you up with those younger students, you might just go like by 0.25 or something like that, so that you kind of click and have a little bit friendlier scrolling. The other thing that I find really useful is in calculus, this feature. So for one thing, that I can just ask, what's f prime of x? And it graphs it for me. Again, so here we're seeing that benefit of Desmos being able to graph an expression, because there's this, really we're implying y equals f prime of x. But here I take advantage of the fact that, and I just say, what's f prime of x, guys? Boom, there it is. And you can also kind of look at values, or I can make the equation. So if I want to graph the tangent line to the point of the function, I might say y equals the slope of a line, so that'd be f prime of whatever value I'm interested in, times, I tend to use slope-intercept form, x minus a, so that's giving us the x-coordinate plus f of a. Takes students a little while to kind of break that down of what the heck that means with all those variables in there. Again, it's calculus level, still kind of takes my students a little while, but once they do, it's pretty cool, because then we can kind of look and say, oh look, like I can move this around and see all of my tangent line functions. Helps us get a real sense of what the purpose of the derivative is and what it's used for. So yeah, that's one of my favorite features. Thanks very much.